Okay, Ron, most of the people out there that are going to watch this are thinking about buying a house. They hear a lot about the pre-qualification process or a pre-qual letter. Talk about that for just a second.
Well, the pre-qual letter is something that the agents are always going to ask for when they're about to show a consumer or a buyer a home. And what it entails in the pre-qual is simply a very simple application that we take over the phone, or we can do it in person. And after we get the application, and some of the questions that we'll be asking is names, social security numbers, date of birth, residencies, employment, some basic questions that you would even fill out if you bought a car.
Okay.
At that time, we're then going to go ahead and pull what's called a tri-merge credit report.
Okay.
All three credit reports, Equifax, TransUnion, Experian, and it's going to give us the data. It's going to give us credit scores, and we're going to look at what we call debt ratios and make sure everything's in line, that the home price that they're looking for is in they're going to qualify for. So after that time, after we get the application, pull a credit report, we make sure they meet the standards of what we're looking for, we then send a pre-qual letter over to the agents.
Now, just an aside, if they're honest with you, if you answer everything honestly, how confident are you in that pre-qual that's going to go to closing?
I feel pretty good. Most people are honest about it. The self-employed consumer, we do ask for an immediate commitment from them to get their financials out when they're giving an application, to pull out their tax returns and read us a few numbers.
Okay.
We've been doing this for 21 years, and I've been able to tell you what lines to look at. Someone who brings in $100,000 in gross receipts, but if they write off everything, we're looking at what their bottom line is.
Right.
So the W-2 employee is a little bit different than the self-employed person. So the W-2 person who's a school teacher in one county or another, they pretty much know what they make on a monthly basis. So, but there are many times where if they do not, we ask them to pull out their pay stub and just read off a couple of numbers.
Sure. Okay, now, I've got them under contract, they've got pre-qual. Now it's time, for the nitty-gritty. Let's talk about the application process.
Okay.
The actual application.
Yeah, after we get a pre-qual letter and you go shopping, they find a home that they're looking at, we make sure at that time we're looking to go into the commitment stage.
Okay.
And at that time, we send them a little homework checklist of what financials we need. It's pretty much the obvious: 2 years W-2s, tax returns, a month worth of pay stubs, and a few other items on there. But we'll send at that time, we'll go ahead and get a copy of the contract from the agent. We will, our processor will go ahead and order the title on the property. During that time, the loan officer will usually work with the consumer to set up a time, or even email what's called a RESPA package, a Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act.
Okay.
Part of the forms that make a RESPA package is a good faith estimate of truth in lending and some other disclosures that they need to sign.
Right.
So during this commitment stage, we're gathering up financials, we're getting them to sign some disclosures, and then we pile everything together. Behind the scenes, our processors are ordering appraisals and titles and things of that nature. And once we have a full package at that time, we then start underwriting the file and make sure that they are truly qualified for the price range that they're looking at. We are validating the application that they've given to us.
The information that you've given me. Now, you and I have done business for a lot of years.
Yeah.
Very rarely have we ever had to rush at the end because you do everything up front. How important is timeliness, as far as getting documents to you to make this process seamless?
Well, that's a great question, Dave, because you are, as you know, on these contracts, they're on a timeline.
Right.
There are some due diligence periods out there, and we try to ask the consumer to make this as a priority and not make it a little bit on the checklist of three. Maybe you have 3 other things you have to do prior to getting us what we need, but we need to move that up to number 1.
Right.
And what happens is you have the consumer has earnest money involved with this transaction.
That's right.
And if they want to play Russian roulette or gamble at the casinos and gamble $3,000 away because they didn't get financials in time, it's really their money that they're risking on there. So we do try to make a sense of urgency and a commitment, and we also educate that consumer about the process, and we talk to them why we need these certain financial items. And there's very rare you're going to get an oddball request. They're pretty standard. Everybody knows they'll have their W-2s and a month's worth of pay stubs. It's kind of pretty simple. We're definitely not going to prick fingers and ask for blood samples or anything, but I think these are pretty basic.
So it's not as bad as a TSA check, but close?
Yes, well, it's close. We're getting there, but no, it is. It's actually, I think there's a lot of myths out there, to be honest with you. I think if you get if you give a good application, and a truthful application, obviously, and then and you have a good loan officer, they will hold your hand all the way through the process and educate you throughout the process and what we're looking at. And basically, remember, we're all a team. There's no individuals. We're a team, and so we have to do this together.
Yeah. All right. If you need expert mortgage advice, go to GeorgiaPlatinumMortgage.com and talk to Ron. Thanks, buddy.
I appreciate it. Good seeing you again, Dave.
You too.